Welcome back to An Acquired Taste. It's time to ditch the pajama pants and get to the office. If you're under the age of 35, if you're ambitious and you have the opportunity to get back to the office, do it. If you are a founder of an early stage startup, get your people to an office. I know this is a hot topic. People talk about this all the time. Bosses are basically forcing people to return to office or return RTO. And the data is compelling when you really look at it recently. Early reports talked about the productivity gains of remote work and all of these things, but that was measuring against a vacuum of nobody working anywhere for any period of time, specifically during COVID. So somebody doing something versus somebody doing nothing is inherently going to look more productive. Now, we're going to get into some data here, and I think this is compelling. So the Wall Street Journal reported that people working from home are promoted 31% less frequently. They also report that 90% of CEOs reported they are more likely to prioritize in-office employees for career advancing opportunities, raises, or promotions. Let that sink in. Is this fair? It's not about fair. I'm going to talk about that in a second. The Institute of Labor Economics found recently that remote employees are 10% to 20% less productive than those working on company premises, and they base that on challenges related to communication, coordination, self-motivation. All may be factors in that decline. And most importantly, bosses are starting to lean into this data. And as I said before, they're basically forcing a return to the office. So should you be mad? Should you quit? Should you go try to find fully remote work? I don't think you should. First, I don't have a ton of empathy for fully remote work. I don't have a ton of empathy for the desire to work from home, but I'm also older. And I grew up in a professional career where that was largely shaped by being in an office environment. I had access to people. I had to navigate those situations. I had to develop my intelligence quotient or my emotional quotient as far as dealing with other people and all that comes with that. And the velocity and volume of learning around those things, emotional intelligence, office etiquette, just navigating yourself in that environment and other human beings, it's accelerated in an office environment. If you're out of sight, you may be out of mind. See above statistics. Serendipity is real. And what I mean by that is things that you can't predict, things that happen to you just by circumstance, tend to be greater when you are in and around an office environment. Impromptu conversations between those meetings that you have in person, the birthdays or anniversary celebrations, any kind of meaningful connections, even potentially personal connections, romantic connections, that happens in an office environment. And that isolation of remote work can stunt your personal life as much as it can your professional life. Again, is this about fairness? I don't really care about fairness. Not in the case of this conversation. If you're more interested in claiming the philosophical high ground, feel free. But if you're more interested in that, then dealing with the reality of developing yourself as a professional in an office environment, and you're entitled to do that. But you're also entitled to making decisions that stunt your own career growth. Google, Twitter, Facebook all announced that they were going to pay their fully remote employees less than their office-based counterparts. So those savings, quote unquote, of not commuting were probably evaporated by that reduction. One specific case was a Google employee whose pay was cut 15% when she went fully remote. 15% is a massive cut, and it's potentially a change in someone's lifestyle. But I don't actually think this has to be binary. I don't think it's one or the other. I don't think it's fully remote or fully return to the office. A hybrid work week where some time is office-based and some time is remote appears to be a win-win for employees and employers. Axios reported that in 2023, hybrid work was preferred by more people than fully remote for the first time, 29% versus 23% respectively. What's also interesting is 46% of those surveyed by Axios still preferred in person. So if you're sitting there fully remote and you're banging on your keyboard talking about how everybody wants to be fully remote and it's not fair and all of these things, I got bad news for you. 23% of you believe that. Everybody else doesn't. Everybody else believes some sort of hybrid or fully in-person circumstance is preferable. So you may actually be on the decline as far as the group of people who believe that to be true. I do think that employers have less cost in a hybrid work environment. I think they're more competitive for talent recruitment and can continue to develop young professionals more effectively when they are in the office sometimes. And for workers, you get the flexibility you want. You don't miss out on as many advancement opportunities, and you probably maintain your salary and can still wear pajama pants at least a couple of days a week on Zoom. I hope that was interesting to you. Love to see your comments. Like, comment, and subscribe below.